Evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you so much, Misha, for joining us for this talk tonight.
Hello, everyone. Again.
So I think Misha came to my attention with she did a predictions for 2021, and I think that was viewed by 77,000 probably by now, isn't it? I think I saw it earlier today.
Really? I haven't checked it. That's quite a lot of people, isn't it?
I know, yeah, 77. So that's how I think you came to my attention. And then I think I saw you speaking with Alexander Quinn.
Oh, yes, yeah.
He's lovely, isn't he?
He's my friend, yeah.
Oh, that's great. So he's been a friend for a while, or just recently? Or?
No, I just met Alexander through this year, really, because I wasn't on YouTube until we had the virus. I used to teach at home in groups, probably a bit like you were doing, Jackie.
Yeah.
I used to have groups in my house, and I used to teach, all my different things to about 10 or 15 people a week in my lounge.
Wow.
And the year before, I kept getting this message, and they were saying to me, you need to start going more international. So I was starting to tell my groups, probably about the middle of 2019, I'm actually winding down and I'm going to start going onto YouTube, I told them. And I'd started to have a little look at how that would all work, because I don't have any IT experience.
Yeah.
Started to get a website together. And then just as I was finishing with them, we moved into 2020. And of course, then I was just thrown into it, because we then had the lockdown. And so I was just given the opportunity then to really focus on starting the YouTube channel. And I worked really hard all last year, just producing lots of materials and learning about how to use a microphone, how to use iMovie and things like that. And so, they have been telling me, you need to go international. They weren't telling me why. They weren't telling me, we were going to have this big shutdown for a long time. But they were obviously prompting me to get organized so that when that happened, I was ready to go.
So, yeah, it was a year, but it's really encouraged us all to get online, because I never would have considered this at all. Never.
No.
But because I was paying for a room. Sorry.
It was very strange at first. I didn't really like it at all, having to look at yourself speaking and the way that you sound, but you just kind of get used to it in the end.
Yeah.
You just don't take much notice anymore.
Well, I find it fascinating that you're now talking to people like Janine by Tarot by Janine.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Janine and Alexander Quinn, Catherine Edwards, Charlie Ward. I was on with him this morning.
Well, you've been friends with him almost from the start, haven't you? From last year, like.
Yeah. So sometimes he'll ask me, what do I think is going to happen with dates and things like that. And of course, we're always a little bit careful with dates. So I don't give him exact dates, but I do give him a feeling about maybe a season or a month that I think it's going to happen. But a lot of things keep getting pushed back at the moment. So we were supposed to see a lot of results in January.
Yeah.
And then right at the last minute, there was some kind of threat. There's been a threat of some sort, and they've had to push everything back. So it's all ready. It's all ready to go, but they've just had to keep pushing it back, because they're just making sure that we don't have another shooting or a Twin Towers. We don't want any more disasters like they've had before when they've tried to go live with this system.
Are we talking? I don't have to talk in code about G and N. No. Is that two words that can be said, G and N? Just
yeah, you can talk about that. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what you're talking about, isn't it? Just Sarah and Nasara?
Yeah, so there's something called the quantum financial system, which is where all currencies around the world are going to be changing to go from the old fiat system to something called a gold-backed system. And that will mean that the federal banks, the Federal Reserve banks that have had control of all of our money in the past and have been charging us interest and basically lending us our own money and then charging us for it, they've all been dismantled now. And all the gold that was taken from us and hidden at the Vatican and different places around the world has now been redistributed, which is why we've been in lockdown. We've been in lockdown for quite a few reasons, but one of them has been that they've been redistributing all the gold around the world to key sites. And I've done a video with Charlie Ward this morning, which should be up tomorrow, where he's explaining that now they're going to keep the gold in different locations in each country, and it won't be at a Federal Reserve Bank. And so the whole system going completely live, even though it's all in place, they've had to be very careful about it, because in the past, when they've tried to make the system live, we had the Kennedy shooting and we had the Twin Towers come down. So they've had to obviously do this in a very different way this time. So it's already actually live and working in the background, but a lot of people don't know about it. I don't know how much this audience know about the quantum financial system, but it actually has gone live in Iraq. And we always knew that once Iraq went live, then they would follow through with the rest of the world.
Wow. I mean, I'm not sure that many would know a whole lot about it. There's certainly some on here that would know about it. But like I did watch a really good video probably 2 or 3 months ago, where this marvelous woman in America was explaining that on the 110th floor of the Twin Towers that morning, they were going to be signing for this.
Yeah.
For this.
That's exactly right. So the people that we call the deep state or the cabal or whatever you want to call them, the Illuminati, they don't want us to have the new system because they've been controlling the money for so long, hundreds of years. And so once we get control of our monies back, then it also means that black money, you know, like the money they use for trafficking, which is another big problem that they've been sorting out for the whole time we've been in lockdown. They've been also infiltrating these trafficking groups, and they've been closing those down. So there's been an awful lot going on. Yeah. We haven't actually really been locked down because of a virus. The virus was just a distraction, and that will come out at some point. So we're not saying that there isn't something going on, that there is a bug, if you like, there is a virus, but what's happened is that the reporting of it, the statistics of it are false. So there are people getting unwell with a virus, but the level of the numbers of people that they're saying is not true. And the reason that they've created this pandemic was so that they could lock us down, and part of that was because of this new system they needed to set up financially. You know, moving around the amount of gold that they needed to move around, it was better that we were all at home. And also, if you're trying to infiltrate trafficking, which is, you know, embedded in a lot of organizations everywhere, then obviously it's better if they can arrest those people and deal with them while we're all in lockdown. So that there's been quite a lot of this is a multi-layered story. It's not really about a virus. The virus was created because they were trying to stop Trump coming into power.
I knew that was yeah.
Because they knew what he was trying to do with the trafficking and with the new financial system. So they were trying to do their Twin Towers event, but it didn't succeed in the way that they had hoped.
So it's not about depopulation, or would you say it is?
So there were two agendas. There was the deep state agenda, which is the New World Order, and then there's the Nasara Jasara, And they both look very similar if you don't really understand what's going on. We call them the white hats and the black hats. So the black hats wanted to create a bioweapon that then led us all to having a vaccination. And in that vaccination, they wanted to implant tracking devices, which when you then switch on the 5G, they could basically in the future have a system like they have in China, which is called a credit system. So if you didn't do, you know, what you were supposed to do, they could stop your income, or, you know, because they would know where you are, they would know how much money you've got in your account by your tracking system, and you would basically be like stopped having money and freedoms. So that was what they were trying to do. That was called the New World Order. But the military in the USA, called the Alliance, who are working with President Trump, they knew about this plan sometime before. They've been obviously watching these people, and they asked President Trump to come into power, and then they created this alliance around the whole world. So all the countries now are signed up to the alliance. They're all signed up to Nasara Jasara. So even though it's very confusing, because when you watch the BBC News, you might think that the leaders are not actually on side. They are actually all on side. And that if they are talking like they're not, it's just because they're protecting this plan until we're all ready to go completely live. So when it goes completely live, all the countries in the world are signed up. So every single country at the same time will go into this new financial currency of being gold backed.
Honestly, that's the clearest I've ever heard it explained, Michelle.
I didn't feel like I was explaining it very well, because I don't know what level everybody's at. So perhaps when we get to questions, I can help people a bit more then, because if you're dealing with people that know a little bit of something, then obviously, and then you've got complete beginners, it's difficult to know where to come in.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, I put this out that we were going to be, I haven't even introduced you really, but I put it out really that we were going to be talking, because you've done a lovely short video about time, the essence of time. And the whole point that I thought I'd say that you're going to be talking about time tonight is because when Tim Wilde, I don't know if you've heard of Tim Wilde.
I have actually. Does he work with Diana Cooper?
That's right, yes.
So Diana Cooper is someone who I call my teacher, because I'm actually an angel teacher. That's what I've been doing for nearly 20 years. So I started off working with angels in the beginning, so going back sort of 20 years ago. And it was Diana Cooper's work that helped me to open up to that.
Oh, wow.
So I used to follow everything that she did until I obviously got to a level where I was able to channel.
Yeah.
And now I can more or less bring in the answers for myself. But she was one of my teachers, I call her.
Wow, I heard about Tim Wilde one day when I was at a meeting with someone, and I come home and found him on Facebook about 8 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, and said, would he come and give us a talk? And he said, I've never given a talk before, but I need to get out there. And so that was the first talk he did for us. And he said he was so nervous, but I had more people come that night, and no one knew him particularly, because he'd not been.
Yeah.
But anyway, what he talks about very much is saying that time is no longer what it used to be. Like we think of 24 hours in a day, which is a man-made concept. But actually it's only like 16 hours in a day now. And then I had Franco De Nicola talk the other day, and he said, I'd say it's more like 12. It's like, it's come right down. It's that quick now. That what was a 24-hour day is now a 12-hour day. And then you wrote that bit about time, and I thought, that's a subject we could discuss.
So people normally think of time as starting here and going along in a line and finishing over here. But time isn't actually linear like that. It's actually vibrational. So depending on what level of spirituality you reside at, so you could be 3rd, 4th, 5th or above, depending on what level of spirituality you're at is how quickly you're vibrating. So the quicker that you're vibrating, then the quicker the time will seem to go, which is why we're having problems at the moment with timelines. Because if we predict something to happen, say, in a month, but tonight, 1 million people all wake up, or they all start vibrating a lot more finely overnight, that will make the timeline go quicker. And then on the back, the other side of that is we might have a prediction for something to happen in March, but if we don't have enough people awake by that time, then we might have to put the plan back slightly. So the new quantum system that we've been talking about is not just about finances, it's about lots of different things. And some of the things that are holding it up in terms of time is that we're waiting for the mass consciousness to get to a certain level. And then it will trigger that system being turned on. So time is really about vibration. It's about how much light you hold. It's about how much spiritual practice you do and how much spiritual work you have achieved so that you vibrate more finely. And it's about the way that you look at time is often about the way you look at your life as well. So it's about being more in the now rather than worrying about, what's coming in the future.
Yes.
I don't know if that helps to explain it.
Wow. I mean, everything that you said in this piece, I have written it down just in case, but I'll just see if this is a question we've got coming. Yes, Joe, speak up. I missed too much in the beginning. Oh, no, I don't know what he's heard a lot about buying gold and silver. What's your thoughts, Michelle? Because of Jasara and Asara, would it be feasible? Sorry, Michelle, posted before posting your name. Oh, yeah. So about gold and silver,
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
So I've bought some gold and some silver because what's been happening is they've been artificially keeping the price of silver down and gold deliberately, so that when the new quantum system turns on, I mean, it is actually up and running, but when we all officially know about it, the price of silver will then go back to its normal rate. So we're expecting it to rise up and to make some profits. So the thing with silver and gold is, even if that didn't happen, you've always got your silver and your gold. So you haven't really got anything to lose. So if you can afford to buy a little bit of silver and gold, it's worth doing it. In terms of the other currencies that you might have heard of, there's dinar, which is the Iraqi dinar, the Vietnamese dong, and then you've got the Zim, which is the Zimbabwe currency. And those three currencies, again, I've bought a little bit of those. They're not very expensive to buy. And the point of buying them is that if you spend, I don't know, £10 on, say, dinar, you'll get like a 500,000 dinar for your £10. And when they do the quantum system when they turn that system on, for every dinar that you have, you'll get £1 back. So if you've got a 50,000 dinar note that you've bought for £10, when they turn over the quantum system, you could effectively trade in your 50,000 dinar note for £50,000, or that's how they are saying it's going to operate. Now, nobody knows for sure if that's going to happen, but if you're only spending £10 to buy 50,000 dinar, then you might as well have a go.
Potentially, that's pretty good.
So, I spent about £100 on each currency, dinar, dong, and the Zimbabwe, the Zim, is for people that want to do humanitarian projects, because their notes have got like $1 trillion on it. So if you buy £10 worth of Zim, you get 50 trillion on one note. And what I've just been talking about with Charlie Ward today is actually about the Zim. So when that goes on tomorrow, if you want to know more about that, if you find that video tomorrow, that explains all about the Zim and how that's going to help people that want to run humanitarian projects.
Wow.
So if you're going to be running a project, you know, in a healing center or a meditation center, or you're going to help animals, or you're going to help some of these children that have been rescued, or, you know, you want to start up a community project where you're growing food, or you have a brilliant invention where you want to collect rainwater and turn it into drinking water, all those types of projects, you'll get funding through the Zim project. So your pound will be worth, if you've bought £10 worth of Zim and you've got 50 trillion Zim, they'll give you 50 trillion pounds to go toward your project. Or it probably won't be 50 trillion, but they're going to exchange it for funds to help your humanitarian projects.
Wow.
So it's worth getting on board with that. And I would say, if you're going to do that, I would start doing that pretty sharpish, because, you know, we don't know, it's any minute now. We really don't know what day they're going to make that system go live. So you really need to be looking at that if you haven't done it already.
Wow, that's incredible. I've not heard about that at all. So thank you. Yeah.
So the Zim, I mean, it all sounds a little bit overwhelming when you first hear it. So if no one's heard this before, you're going to be thinking, you know, what's she talking about with a ding and a dong and a Zim? You know, it's going to sound very confusing. But if you, as I said, if you want to watch the Charlie video tomorrow, it will at least explain the Zim side of it. So if you have an idea for a project that you want to do, it'll explain to you how you can redeem your currency to get the money to help you with your projects.
So when, I know you said 20 years ago you got into the spiritual about the angels and everything, but when would you say you woke up to all this that's going on in the world, and how did you wake up to it?
So I think I was born awake, because I always felt like I didn't really fit in with my family, and at school I was always, you know, just felt like the world was a strange place and that people didn't understand me. And then going through my 20s, I had psychic awareness, but I didn't realize I was psychic, because I just thought everybody was like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't really understand. And then in terms of waking up, I think I've been waking up at different times and at different levels. So, you know, last year when all this virus hit, the first thing I thought was, wow, this is the golden age. This is the awakening. So I've been teaching about the golden age for about 12 years, and we're not expecting that to arrive until 2032. And in 2012, we thought that was going to be the awakening. So 2012, we all got up on that day and we thought, oh, you know, something big's going to happen.
Yeah.
And 2012 kind of came and went. And, you know, I was still teaching about the golden age. I was still explaining to people about angels and how we were moving into this brighter world of love. And, you know, I just thought it was always going to be a very gradual process, and that by 2032, we would eventually have got enough people on a spiritual pathway that the world would be a kinder place. But then last year, when all this happened, I realized this is what the awakening looks like. And even I had another awakening. So even though I was already awake to a lot of things that are going on, you know, I understood, you know, that what you get shown on the TV and all this type of thing, and drinking tap water and all those things that people think we're probably being a little bit sensitive about. I knew about all of those things for a long time. I didn't watch TV, and I was careful about what I drink and what I eat. And I had a spiritual life already. But I just realized that when this all happened last year, this was what they were calling the awakening, which is taking us towards the golden age. So I'm told that the golden age is still coming in 2032. So we still are on a pathway towards it. But obviously now, because of all these events that are happening, there's going to be so much restructuring of governments and politics and all the things that have been holding us down, that, you know, eventually the whole consciousness of the planet is going to rise up. So it's already been doing that. A lot of people have been thinking this last year, you know, something's not right, and they've started to question. And this is the beginning for a lot of people when they have this thing called awakening. So for me, I've always been awake, but I would say I've been awake to a certain level, and then something else happens and you wake up a bit more. And who's to say that I won't wake up a bit more?
Well, absolutely. I totally resonate with that. Totally. Yeah.
You know, because things like the things that were shocking to me were the things about how many people are in power that we've all been trusting, and now we find out they're not good people. And a lot of this stuff isn't mainstream yet, but you know, a lot of our leaders have all been in place through fraudulent elections, for instance. So you know, I mean, I thought for last time we had an election in the UK, you know, I said immediately that there's something wrong, that there's no way that election came out right. And now we're finding out that all the machines that they've been using everywhere seem to have been tampered with. And they've just found out, I think it was today, that I think it was in Holland, they've had a similar thing just happen, where they already knew who was going to be in power before they counted the votes. Well, that's not possible unless you're doing a fraudulent election.
Absolutely, yeah. And what do you think about the fact that most of the politicians, or I don't say most, but I do know some, have got shares in the pharmaceuticals, in like the PPE and the vaccination?
Yeah, exactly. And all of this plan and these patents and these materials that they had to buy, they'd already put in orders for them before we had the crisis.
Yeah.
So if this crisis just came and no one was prepared for it, apparently, that's not true, because they'd already started ordering and putting patents on these things before the crisis even hit. So they knew it was coming, it was planned. This whole pandemic was planned.
Absolutely. But again, like you say, it needed to be to shut down so that the gold or whatever could be moved around, but also for the tunnels.
Yeah.
I'll just see what other question we've got here. What do you know about
Trump?
Oh yeah, do you know when Mr. Trump was in UK, who signed up to Nazara, Boris or royalty?
No, it wasn't royalty, and it wasn't Boris either. So the people that signed up for Nasara Jasara, I don't know who it would be in the UK. I don't know who's in charge in terms of we don't actually in the UK we don't actually have a government either, because our corporation was also dissolved and bankrupted, I think in 2019. So if you go to Corporation House or Companies House, or you know, I don't know what it's called, where you register your company, our government of the UK was also dissolved like the USA. So none of our government should be able to actually oversee us. So we don't actually really have a legitimate government right now. So the military are also in control in the UK, even though we don't, as a nation, we haven't been told that. So all of the people that have signed up to the Nasara and Jasara, it's normally the heads of the countries. So I would imagine it would have been actually the person before, Theresa May or someone like that, because they've known about this for a long time. This didn't happen just this year. Those documents about Nasara and Jasara have been known about by heads of state for probably about 5 years. So this has all been getting sorted out behind the scenes since at least 2016, probably longer. So that might even have been as far back as David Cameron.
Are you able to say about the 2 birth certificates? Do you know enough to, because there's some here I doubt would know about that.
Yeah, so birth certificates are, I don't know how to explain it exactly, but they use our birth certificates on the stock exchange to use as like a commodity to make money. So I don't understand, I don't really know how to explain that to everyone, but they use that as a way to raise money against us on the stock exchange.
they sort of put a value, don't they, onto what they think we will earn throughout our life.
That's right.
Yeah. It's something.
You become a commodity.
Bonds, aren't they? Bonds.
We're bonds.
That's right. Yes, that's a good way to explain it. Yes.
That's how
I have heard of some people that have got their original birth certificates, so not the ones that we normally have in the house, but the actual one that you have when you're born, which you don't normally see because they send it off, and they managed to get it back. And on the back of it was all the stamps of all the countries that it's been to, that they've been using it as leverage for borrowing money.
So if someone wants a mortgage, for instance, they go in and look at your other birth certificate, the one that's been traded on that we know nothing about, and see how much you're worth, and then lend you the money for your mortgage from your own money that you don't know is your own money, and then you pay interest
on your own money.
On your own money. I mean, it's just, and some people are now getting their mortgages paid off in America, aren't they?
So the point of Nasara Jasara is that everything that's gone on with the financial system, the old financial system, whether that's a mortgage or a loan or a student grant, anything where you've had money lent to you, it's all been under a legal pretense. They're not allowed to do that because they've literally, like you said, been lending you your own money, and they've also been giving you money that they've just printed off. I mean, it is just paper. There's nothing beyond it. There's nothing backing it up. So it's all illegal that they then charge you interest on something that doesn't actually exist. So in the future, when the Nasara Jasara kicks in this country, your loans will be repaid, your mortgages will be paid off. And I'm also hearing that if you've been in your lifetime, all your tax and things will come back to you. You won't pay tax anymore. And any tax that you may have paid might come back as a rebate. So we're all going to be a lot richer because all these things that we've been taxed on in different ways, they're going to be bringing it back to us. And as you said, some people in some places have already had some of that started to happen. And you've got to remember, because there's so many people on the planet, they've been having to do it very gradually. Because I was just talking earlier to somebody about the Iraqi thing, that apparently theirs has gone live. And I was saying it probably hasn't gone completely live in the whole country just overnight, because, you know, the day before, to go and buy a loaf of bread, you'd had to have paid like 15,000 Iraqi dinar for a loaf of bread. And then overnight, they would have changed the financial system. So it was just 1 dinar or £1 or whatever you want to call it, $1. Now, if you think about all the shops would have to change all their, if you went down to Tesco's tomorrow and all the currencies changed, you know, there's a lot of logistics behind that. They'd have to change all the way the computers work. And so I don't think that these things are just going to turn on tomorrow in the UK and we're all just suddenly going to have our mortgages repaid and everything's just going to happen like overnight. But I do think that gradually we will all start to see our taxes coming back, our mortgages being paid off, and obviously the currency will start changing the way it looks and the way it's backed.
And what would you think about people that have got any savings now in like the banks or what would you say about that? Is that because you're saying that's already been dissolved?
So my understanding is it's all safe. So whatever you've had in your accounts, they will just give you like for like. So even though your account will change, the way it's managed, I mean, you might not, on the surface level, you might not see anything different happening, to be fair. You might not actually see anything happening that's different. But it just means that anything you've got in your account is now securely backed by a piece of gold somewhere. It actually does have something securing it. Whereas before, you just had pieces of paper that weren't backed by anything.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
The whole thing. It's really, you know, I don't know if Sarah Williams is with us on here tonight. But Sarah, she mentioned the other day, and this absolutely, I have not heard anything like this before, but she said that there's a chap, say in Crawley, he goes to work in the morning a bit off what we were saying, but it's still mind-blowing, really. Goes off to work in the morning, and so he's going in for his 9 to 5 job, says goodbye to his wife. He's probably gone for 2 or 3 months, and in that time he's got in a lift and gone to Mars and working in Mars and comes back at 5 o'clock, but he's probably been gone 2 or 3 months.
Like
and
time travel. Yeah.
Time travel. I mean, just the whole thought about it just seems so out of this world. Is that Sarah saying something? Was that a message? Because she was.
That's absolutely true. Area 51 in the USA, they've got lots of technologies like that, including flying cars and lots of different technologies. Also, you know, these medical beds. Don't know if
the med beds will be amazing, won't they?
Yeah. And a lot of things that are good for us, like homeopathy and natural things, have all been suppressed.
Yes.
They've got technologies that are going to help us to have free electric, free energy. So we're going to have Tesla in the future, Tesla electricity. So we're not going to be paying big bills to Eon and First Utility anymore. That's all going to go. So all our energy is going to be free. So we're going to be saving money on our energy because we're going to be having Tesla. We're going to be saving money on our tax because we're not going to be taxed. We're only going to be taxed on things that are brand new. So if you go and buy a brand new product, you'll still have to pay a little bit of tax on that, but you're not going to be taxed on your income or anything else that you buy. And then you're going to not be paying, obviously, these interest rates on mortgages and things because they're going to be gone. There won't be. The way that we get money in the future will be different. So we won't need to be borrowing it in the way that we've been doing before.
And we won't be doing jobs that we don't want to go to either, will we? Like it'd be hopefully jobs that you really love and want to be doing.
Yes, well, the way the new system should look is that you're all more financially better off and you don't have to work so many hours. So hopefully you'll be able to do a job that you enjoy, because you won't be needing to work like 60 or 80 hours a week just trying to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And so hopefully you'll be in a situation where you can go and do something you actually want to do.
You know, I love that thing where they say you're either striving or you're thriving. And most of us have been striving, but we're going to be thriving.
Yeah. Or being. I call it just being. Just learn to be.
Yes.
Don't push.
Beautiful. I just see, what do you know about the shedding due in the autumn winter time? Shedding. Is that from the
Do you mean the vaccine?
The vaccine, where they say you'll be shedding for people that, so like for instance here, my husband's had the vaccine and I haven't. And there's something said about shedding for the ones that have had it. I don't understand that. I don't really know.
So I can't talk about shedding because I don't know anything about it. But the things I feel about vaccinations are that it's a little bit of a complex situation because we've obviously got a lot of different countries and companies involved. But my feeling all along has been that most of them are at most just a flu vaccine.
Yeah.
And that some of them might not have anything in them at all other than just something benign. Like if you're in the USA, it will probably be something like vitamins or hydroxychloroquine. In the UK, I feel like the most potent thing you're being given is a flu vaccine. That's not to say that some of these mRNA vaccines haven't got through. But the reason that the military have been at schools is not for the reason that you think. It's not that they've been there to give the children tests and to make them have vaccines. It's actually that they've been there to make sure that those bad mRNA vaccines don't actually get into the system. And I also had a channeling recently that the military are also creating their own vaccine, which is called mRNA, because you know everything is white or black. See, the black cats or white. So the military have been creating another type of mRNA vaccine, but the MR stands for magnetic resonance. Because when that vaccine is given to us, if it needs to be given to us, if say there's another bioweapon attack, this new vaccine that they are creating will act with the Tesla healing. And so it will heal you rather than damage you. So the old type mRNA was going to, it was going to change your genes, and it was going to change your DNA.
Yeah.
And that's the dangerous one, because we don't quite know what that's going to do longer term. It's going to sterilize people, and, we don't know what that's going to do. It's very dangerous. But again, I think it's probably a narrative that they've been using to wake people up, so that people that still think that the BBC are telling the truth and that this is all about a virus, when they eventually find out that they still can't go out, even though they've had a vaccine, that they've still got to wear their mask, and that they could still get this COVID, then they're going to be saying, well, why do I have to have a vaccine then? So this is what we're waiting for people to start questioning. They're still not quite there yet.
Yes.
When people start saying, well, I've had my vaccine, and I've had my second vaccine, and I've had my third vaccine, and you're still locking us down, then they're going to get it. Yeah. So it's all part of getting people to question the narrative. Because in the future, we're not going to have governments like we've got now. We're not going to have this structure that we've got now. We're going to have governments that we actually elect. And it's just going to be normal people like you and me, Jackie.
Wow.
It's going to be more local communities. It's not going to be this top-down system anymore. And so in order for that system to work, people have got to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. Because what we've got at the moment is a nanny state where everybody is being told what to do all the time.
Yeah.
Particularly now.
Yeah.
So part of what's going on at the moment is like a psychological operation to get people to the point where they say, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not staying in my house anymore. I'm not having a vaccine. I'm not putting on a mask. And it's so that in the future, when they have to stand on their own 2 feet and make decisions for their own communities, they're in the right vibration to do it. So I know it all sounds a little bit back to front, but it all sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but that's the plan behind keeping it running this long. And the countries where people are a bit slower than others, like the UK and Australia, that's why we're having things go a bit longer and harder than other countries. And
because what, they're so set in their ways to wake up.
Yeah, that's partly the reason.
Mm-hmm.
And the other reason obviously is because we've got quite an embedded deep state in the UK. Right. Our parliament, all of our organisations, MI6, social services, police, all of them are full of people that need to be, brought out. So a lot of it is a lot of things going on. We're locked down because of they're trying to train people to stand up for themselves. We're locked down because they're moving the gold. We're locked down because they're clearing out the trafficking. So there's quite a lot of a complex plan going on.
A thing that came up the other day where we were talking, when we say about those tunnels and the trafficking and how ingrained it, like how much it is, like it's such a shock even to find out about that.
No. Yeah.
But then there's got to be an awful lot of people that are making those tunnels work. Those children have got to be looked after in some way, even not a very good way, but they are looked. So there's people doing that. So how many people are involved in, it's just incredible, isn't it?
Well, in Antarctica, which is where the biggest problem is, there's still 50 million people under Antarctica in the tunnels. And they're still trying to get them out.
50 million?
50 million.
Oh, in Antarctica?
In Antarctica. So Antarctica is one of the final places. Most of the world, they've got the majority of it under control. But there's a big military operation at the moment to blow up the tunnels on all sides of Antarctica. So they're coming in from the outside so they can capture the people actually in there. Because if they just sort of came in one way,
Yeah.
people could like go out the other. So there's tunnels all under the seabed. I mean, it's actually really hard to get your head around, isn't it?
Yeah, without a doubt.
You know, it's taken me a good year to really understand this, the mass of it. It's huge. It's
And I was just
absolutely
concerned
huge.
about 12 hours in a day. I mean, really, I've not heard that at all in Antarctica. And have you channeled that, or have you heard it from someone else? Or
So I've heard that from a couple of people that are military.
yes.
And
obviously Charlie Ward's got a lot of people that.
Yeah, and also when I remote view that area, I can see it.
Gosh.
And I've also seen they do experiments on people. They try under there as well. So they're not just breeding humans. They are doing experiments with people and animals. So I've actually seen in my visions, we have got people under there that look like they're half human and half animal. So they sometimes have like pig faces, but they look like they're stood up like a human. There's some really horrendous things going on that probably will never actually come out into the public arena, because I don't think people would be able to cope if they knew the full extent of what's going on. But 800,000 people go missing a year. Children go missing a year just from America. Now, where do people think 800,000 children are going? So before President Trump came into power, there was nothing stopping that. That was just a business. It was the most profitable business. It was more profitable than drugs.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, you've got to be asking yourself, where are 800,000 children going? And that's where they're going. They're getting trafficked into these tunnels. So the Epstein story was just like the tip of the iceberg. He wasn't just taking teenage girls to an island and having a few princes go there to have sexual intercourse. It was much more disgusting than anything you could ever imagine. That, you know, when you see these documentaries, it makes it look like Disneyland in comparison to what was actually really going on. We're talking about satanic rituals and abuse of children. And Charlie Ward had a lady on this week actually who had been trafficked for 30 years. And in that time, they had made her have 18 children that they took from her to be sacrificed.
Oh my gosh.
And, you know, people don't understand this level of depravity that's been going on. This is why we've all been locked down, because this is the evil that we've been fighting against and we're trying to clear. So this whole year has been a year of light and dark. We're trying to clear the darkness out of the world so that we can move into the golden age. And it was all going on in these tunnels underneath us.
Can you explain what a white hat and a dark hat is?
So a white hat is somebody that works for what we call the Alliance or President Trump. They are working for this good plan, which we're calling Nasara Jasara. So this is where we as people, we get our power back, we get our money back, and they are putting a stop to all of this trafficking. And a black hat is the people that were running those dark operations. So they tend to be royal families, which I know is shocking, but all the royal families are involved.
Yeah.
The Vatican.
Yeah.
Most government, the top of people in government, most of them were involved all over the world. And then you've got all your tech people. So Bill Gates, Hollywood were involved.
Who was that? What was the last one?
Hollywood.
Oh, Hollywood, yes.
So basically everyone you've looked up to in your life and that have thought, Barack Obama was involved,
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton, Tom Hanks. All these people have been involved in this disgusting.
I've even heard Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, she's one of the top, what they call a like satanic priestess. And you know, when I first heard all this, going back to you asking me about awakening, you know, that was really hard for me about a year ago when I started finding out that people like Barack Obama, who
I
I
know.
actually really liked,
I did.
and Tom Hanks,
Yeah.
who I absolutely loved all of his work, to find out that these people have been trafficking children and the things that they do is just, well, I had to take 3 days off of social media because I just couldn't cope with it.
Yeah.
I had to come off and just take time to think that all through, you know, to work that out in my head.
And did you then go in and channel and ask questions about that with your guides?
Yeah. So the way it happened was that I didn't know anything about Nasara and Jasara, and I didn't know about President Trump, but they started to tell me. So I started to ask, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, what's going on? A year ago, I started to say to them, what is this all about? And then they started to tell me.
Well, you were ready to hear it.
Yeah. Well, before then I hadn't asked, because often they don't tell me something unless I ask them.
Yeah.
You know, I get channelings that are pleasant, and you've heard some of them, and they give nice teachings, but I'd never actually asked, you know, are children being trafficked for their blood? I mean, who does that? Nobody actually ever asks that, because none of us ever would ever think that was going on.
Think that. So where does God come in within that, Misha?
So obviously the people that are doing these dark things, they don't worship a god, they worship Satan. So what we've been finding out is that a lot of these groups of people, they're all Satanists. So a lot of these government officials and organizations, and the Masonic people, the people that are in the Masons, and all these different organizations. So I'm not saying that every Mason is a Satanist. I'm not saying that.
No.
But a lot of these organizations, these secret organizations, that's what they're based upon. They're based upon this kind of satanic worship. Even at the UN headquarters, apparently there's a meditation room, but the actual features in the room are Satanist. The same at the Vatican. So where God comes into it is that we've been thinking that we've been getting taught about God, particularly through like the Catholic Church and things like that, because they're very clever at making things look like they're godly. We've all been tricked. We've been tricked. And where God comes into it is that he has brought this man called President Trump. It, for whatever reason, most unlikely person that you could probably ever imagine. It wouldn't have been something that I would have seen or thought was going to happen. And for whatever reason, he's been called to lead up the front of this change. That's why he came into power in 2016. And people say that he's had a calling. I know it seems very unlikely. You know, it's not someone I would have thought, you know, in a million years would be the person that was going to awaken the world.
No.
He's not doing it all on his own, of course. He does have the alliance. But he's the one that has been taking the brunt of everything, because
they make him out to be a buffoon.
Well, the media is controlled by these dark people. Yeah. Or it was. It's not controlled by them now. But the reason we're still not getting the truth yet is because we're still trying to wake people up. So they still are giving out false storylines at the moment until people are ready.
Right.
It's quite a complex. If you
I mean, I did love what I heard you say I think, well, you were on with Tarot by Janine.
Oh, yes.
When you said about Piers Morgan.
Yes.
Because I've got no time for that man whatsoever. Absolutely not. Because he seems to be saying have the vaccine and all the things opposite to what you would absolutely want. You know, wear the mask, social distance, stay indoors. He's saying all of that. Even though if he was really knowing the truth of everything, he would absolutely be the advocate to be in front of people saying this is what's happening. And people would listen to him.
So that might be where we're heading with him, because he's actually been playing both sides. So the fact that he's just left Good Morning Britain, it could be that in the future, because of the type of person he is, you know, the way that he talks, and he's quite brash and he doesn't care what he says.
Yeah.
He could actually have been being used by the Alliance so that in the future, when he comes forward and starts telling everyone, this is what's been going on with the royals, this is what's been going on with the people, are going to hopefully listen to someone like him. So I've got a feeling that he's actually working for the Alliance now. I'm not saying he's a white hat or a black hat. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But I'm saying that he might be a resource that the white hats could use. And you might find in the future, he could become a spokesperson for all this stuff I've been talking about today.
If anyone wants to jump in, to unmute yourself in case I'm missing any questions here, by all means do. But yeah, how do we stop these evil demons from reincarnating back here again?
Well, we stop them because they can only vibrate to what we call the fourth dimension. They can only go up to a certain level. So and the world at the moment is moving into the fifth dimension. We're actually moving from third to fifth. We're sort of in the fourth at the moment. So we're kind of crossing the demons as we go at the moment. We're going past them. When everybody vibrates at fifth dimension, which is where the planet is headed, then the fourth dimension won't be able to exist any longer because the vibration will be too high. It won't be able to have any effect. It won't be able to touch us. We'll be like invisible to it. So you know when you're doing spiritual
so like the ones, if they do reincarnate, they'll still be at 3D.
They just probably wouldn't come back here because there wouldn't be anything for them to feed off of. They've only been able to exist here before because while we've had people in 3D and below them, they've been able to mind control us, and they feed off of our fear. And sometimes they literally feed off of people. This is what this satanic ritual is about. But as we raise our vibration, we won't be in fear anymore. So they won't have anything to come here for. So this is why we're trying to wake everybody up. And sometimes the dark storylines that are going on at the moment are trying to get people to say, I'm not doing it anymore, so that they wake up.
Yeah. I mean, that in London on Saturday was phenomenal, wasn't it?
Yeah. But the BBC would have you think that that was a riot or something, you know? Yeah. Actually, I've got my friends are up there, some of my people. I don't know if you know Alpa Sonny, she was up there. And it was the police that were aggravating the things that did happen. They tried to arrest her for just standing there. She wasn't doing anything.
I did see a video clip where a chap went up to a policeman, said something to the policeman, then he walked, and the policeman nodded. He walked off round the van. The policeman then looked around to see if he'd started any trouble, and he hadn't. Then the policeman looked again, and the trouble had started. So then he got all the police and they all went in.
Yeah.
So that man was specifically going in to start trouble so that the police would have a reason to go in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And there was also one in Bristol where they had the fire of the police car. And that was a car that was out of MOT, that is no longer in service.
Yeah.
And that was set on fire, probably, you know, I don't know for sure, but by the police.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's how it works.
And it also, the ambulance there that they wrote on and vandalised had the same number plate as the police car.
And you know, apparently there were 80,000 people in London, but according to like anything that's come out in the media, they made it sound like they were like 500 people there or something.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And there was actually 80,000.
Yeah,
you know, walking through peacefully.
yeah, wonderful. So just see, is there anything mother and parents can do when facing into energy of family courts? Is there anything mothers and parents can do when facing into the energy of family courts? Do you understand that?
I think so. I mean, in the future, a lot of these systems are going to collapse. We're not going to have the same legal system. We're moving from something called maritime law into common law. So once we start moving into Nasara Jasara, the whole legal system will change. So the way that we've been running, you know, family courts and all types of legal processes and government processes is all going to change. So we won't need all this government anymore, because I mean, they don't really do much anyway, do they?
Well, only try and put us in more fear if you listen to them.
Take our money. They get richer, and we, you know, so that whole system is going to go. So we might not even have a parliament anymore in the future. So
you know, so many of us are wanting these revelations to come to light.
Yeah.
And just like a bit frustrated.
Yeah.
You know, because it seems so long. We heard it back, you know, October, November time, that it would be coming out soon, that people would start hearing a lot of what we've talked about tonight, and nothing, you know, seems to be. But
so
yeah,
a lot is going on, but you won't find it on mainstream media. And it was all supposed to come out in January when Trump was supposed to be re-elected.
Yeah.
But they had a scare. There was something that they were going to do. But you know, even though they've dismantled a lot of these deep, dark people, there are still a lot of them around, obviously, that could create damage if they wanted to. They still do have some sort of energy weapons, as far as I know, and it's the people in Antarctica. So apparently the threat that they could have made, Donald Trump pulled back, and he let that Biden fiasco go forward, because we all know that was recorded in a studio. That wasn't real.
You honestly believe that was recorded in a studio?
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 studios that all look like the White House. I think one of them's in Atlanta, and that's all being recorded. If you look at the scenery, I think there was one where Biden was sitting, and out of the window you could see Trump walking past the window.
Really?
But at the real White House, you can't see the car park out the window. But Atlanta studios, when Biden's signing his blank pieces of paper, you can actually see the cars parked in the car park behind.
Unbelievable.
And there is a lady that lives in Atlanta who went down to check out the studios, and she did ask there's a lot of people milling around that was security, like military and people like that. So, you know, if you can go and look for the evidence, it's all there.
Yeah.
And he's not flying on the real Air Force One. If you look at the Air Force One that he's flying on, you'll notice that the paintwork's a different colour, and that the motive that's on the side of the Air Force One, there was something wrong with it. I don't know if it was peeling off or in the wrong place, or, you know, these people that notice these things, they sort of put it on their videos.
Yeah. Well, he went up the stairs and tripped about 3 times, didn't he?
So that's not actually Biden, that's an actor, because no 80-year-old man could run up the steps like that, fall 3 times and jump back up. So that's an actor. Or the other thing you might be seeing is CGI. So a lot of the times when you think you're seeing real people, you're not. So when you thought you watched the Queen's speech at Christmas, that wasn't the Queen, that was a CGI, which is computer generated imagery. They're not really the people that you think they are.
See, that's what Sarah's been saying to me, that Boris Johnson is not Boris Johnson.
So when he sits at that desk, when he's always given us I mean, I don't really watch those updates that he does,
No,
but
no.
if you occasionally tune in just for a minute to watch, it's quite funny, because you'll see, if you look carefully, there's an outline around him, and it's CGI. There's nobody sitting at that desk. It's projected. It's just clever cinema. That's all it is.
Wow. That's unbelievable, isn't it? What I was going to say as well, when I said to you that Sarah had said about this chap going off to Mars to work every day and that, she said there's 18,000 people that work on Mars, and that 1,000 of them are from England. So where's the other 17,000 working from? I tell you, it just opens your mind to things. Mind-blowing.
Yeah. In fact, there's a guy called Gene Decode that talks a lot. He's military. He talks on a lot of the truth channels, and he's talked about Mars just recently, actually. And he was saying that the children that they've been bringing out from under the White House, because obviously they've had the fencing around the White House, and part of that was because there's been a lot of military stuff going on inside there. And some of it was they were bringing people up from the tunnels out through the White House. So that doesn't mean that those children have been under there the whole time that Trump was in power, because those tunnels go for hundreds of miles. They go all across America. But it was in order to keep these children private, I suppose, would be one way of saying it. While the White House is empty, because there's nobody there, there's no Biden there. Trump's at Mar-a-Lago in Florida, so there's nobody in the White House as such. They've been bringing these children up, and anybody that's been involved in hurting them, Gene Decode said that they've been taking them up to Mars, and that's like a holding place, like a prison. Not the children, but the people that have been doing
Oh, really?
Yeah, the children are going to the med beds.
Oh.
But if they're finding any of these perpetrators of this satanic ritual stuff, they've been taking them to Mars.
Good God. I mean, this is so much more than I expected tonight.
They can't escape from Mars, can they? That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, because they said when Meghan and Harry did that interview the other day with Oprah, she had a tag on, and actually it did look through her boot like she's under house arrest.
That's all CGI. That was all CGI. None of those people were in a garden. They weren't all sitting together in a garden.
No.
They were all in different locations. They probably weren't even. Somebody who's very clever at CGI just puts all that together. So they just find old footage of these people. Or the other way they can do it is there's an actor and they can CGI the face onto them. So I don't know if you've ever heard of an app called TikTok. Has anyone heard of TikTok?
Oh yeah, TikTok.
So last week, Tom Cruise was on there. It wasn't Tom Cruise. And it looked exact. I mean, it's close up, like I'm close up to you now. And it wasn't Tom Cruise. And they were showing you how true and lifelike CGI is. You cannot tell.
Good Lord.
You just cannot tell.
Well, because another thing I'd heard was when President Trump come over here in 2018, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He did a deal with the Queen and Prince Philip that Meghan would be the fall guy for the royals going to pieces, sort of thing, so that it didn't look bad on the Queen, because they didn't want anything to, there's a lot of people that have full respect for the Queen.
Well, it wasn't because of that. It was because the Queen is actually the whole royal family is involved in all these things with the children.
Well, not William.
William, all of them are involved.
Right.
And but Trump's mum used to like the Queen. So he did a deal with the Queen that he would spare her, I suppose, of any embarrassment. So he's allowed them to have different get out clauses. So Meghan is probably one of them, you know, so that it will look like it's all Meghan's fault.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Queen will probably just die, or, you know, she'll just die. I mean, she's actually been arrested. She's not actually we don't actually have a royal family. That was all dismantled 2 years ago. When he came to the UK, that was all dismantled. That's why she's not at Buckingham Palace.
I mean, I had heard that, but I mean, that coming from you, I think it's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, and you know, this is why these things have to be rolled out slowly, because you know, people that have grown up with the Queen and back in the, you know, the war and things like this, when the royal family were respected and politicians and doctors and all these people were respected, it's going to have a big impact on people when they find out the level of like lies and, well, what's been going on, when they find out the royals have been involved in all this horrible business with these children. You know, some people are going to have nervous breakdowns. There's not going to be an easy way around some of this stuff.
No, without a doubt.
I hope no one here is having a nervous breakdown.
I know, that's what I was going to say.
Stuff already. I don't want to be responsible for anyone having a nervous breakdown.
I mean, I do just trust that if they've joined us tonight, their higher self knew what they were in for.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I hope so. Because some of these topics are pretty, you know.
I was just going
to
hello, my darling. I was just saying I'm struggling. But it's okay. It's okay, because I know that it's true, because I can hear the frequency and vibration in your voice, Michelle.
Yeah.
So I know that it's the truth, but it's just so difficult, isn't it?
Yes.
Man, like to hear about those people with like pig faces, and I could, but when you were talking about it, I could actually see it.
Yeah.
So I know it's the truth.
And the thing is that I've had a good 18, how long have we been doing this now? 14, 15 months. So I've had all this time to kind of adjust to it.
Yeah.
You know, and so when we're all saying we wish this would hurry up and it would all just come out, you know, President Trump is actually a very caring man, even though he comes across, by the way the media portray him, as not caring.
He's lovely.
And the last thing he ever wants is for anybody else to get injured in this, whether it's mentally injured or, you know, have a breakdown or riots in the street. So the reason we're having to have this story play out with this false Biden and all this nonsense is so that there's not riots in America. And it's so that when these things do start to come out, they come out in a way that people can understand it. Well, I don't think people will ever understand it. But some of it is not going to come out in the way that I've just explained it all to you, ever. Because you know, the general public just won't be able to cope with those sorts of details.
Thank you for that. But yes, it is mind blowing. But I knew it was real, and I actually really like Trump. He's a nice person, and he's got a good heart. And and I've checked his frequency and vibration as well, so I know that he's in his truth. He's actually quite high vibrational. Yeah,
and I've had 2 dreams of President Trump. One, I was in a tunnel with him and the military were surrounding us. Well, were surrounding him, and I was just kind of watching him in the tunnel. And he was just very calmly giving out instructions to all the military, and they were just all following orders. And it was all very calm, all very organized. This is the alliance that I've been talking about. And I was just watching him. And then the second dream I had, I was sitting next to him up at the Hollywood Hills. You know, on the films, they always sit on that bench and they look out over the Hollywood Hills. And he was sitting next to me, and I had my head kind of on his shoulder, like you would if he was like your dad. And he was saying to me, everything's going to be okay. So when that happened, that was back in March or April last year. And it was after that I realized not only the magnitude of what was going on, but I realized that this man is not what you see on the TV. It's not the orange hair, and it's not the way. Everything he talks about is a code. It's all a code, because he's been trying to one, stay alive, because they would have murdered him at every, he's had a lot of attempts on his life. So he can't be sort of broadcasting out to everybody what his actual plan is. He's got to do everything in code. So that's why a lot of the times when he's talking about things, it's confusing. So when he talks about vaccines, he's not actually talking about vaccines. He's talking about military, and there's a lot of decoding you have to do. So once you sort of feel the essence of him, like you were saying, Renee, you just know, don't you? You just can feel into the energy.
Without a doubt. I don't know if Patricia's still with us, but what Patricia's very upset about, and that's why we have this discussion, she's very upset that I like him, is because she heard a story where he left 500 children. And that was put out on the media. No. Are you still with us, Patricia? I knew it's media.
The children, if they're taking them away from parents, that's not their parents. They're the traffickers. But the media tell you that he's putting them in cages. No, he's actually saving them from the trafficking. The reason they put the wall up was because they wanted to stop the trafficking. It wasn't because of the immigration problem, although that was a problem. But in the future, it won't matter under the quantum system, because all the borders will be open anyway. Because under the quantum system, everything's going to be different. Under the Nasara Jasara and the quantum computer that I've been talking about. So at the moment, they've had a lot. Biden, the fake Biden, is opened all the borders, and they're saying that all these illegal immigrants are coming in, and Trump's team are down there picking up all these children they're bringing in right now. Oh. But you won't hear that, because that's not what the media want you to know.
Thank you, Misha. We're actually coming to near the end. Well, we've gone past the time, but I just wanted to think, this has just been so interesting. I could carry on all night. Dennis has said, I've seen the CGI of Biden already, loads of proof he is not where he is meant to be, etc.
Yeah. And yesterday there was a film going around of him walking up to a presenter outside, supposedly outside the White House, and his CGI hand went through a solid object.
Really?
It was so badly produced that, those big fluffy microphones that the reporters have. So it's like me putting my hand through my microphone right now. It just went straight through like a ghost. It's just CGI. It's just clever, cinema. That's all it is.
I mean, Dennis is saying, all I can say is thank you, Misha. I love Trump.
Yeah, I love Trump. I was quite worried about him at one point because of all the attempts that they keep having on his life. But there's lots of good stuff coming, apparently.
That's a nice thing to end with, yeah.
Yeah, there's so many good things coming that I've even been hearing that, there's the Kennedy boy is not dead. The one that supposedly died in the plane crash.
Yes.
He's part of the alliance. So a lot of people that we think have been killed or died from suicide, they did that deliberately to get them out of danger, because these are people that knew about the trafficking and had probably raised some sort of alarm or wanted to do something about it. And if they'd have stayed in the public eye, so if you think about people like Michael Jackson,
Diana, Prince, they've said.
Who, sorry?
Prince.
I don't know if Prince is one of them, but possibly. Okay. But I think you're going to find that there's going to be a lot of people that you thought were dead that actually had just been working with the alliance. So they set it all up that they would look like John Kennedy. Yeah. Oh, John Kennedy. Is that one of our people? I thought that was someone saying it was Kennedy that was on the flight. Do we have a Kennedy in the house? He's actually here right now. A lot of people that we think have died have just actually been kept in a secure place. And once all this is sorted out, a poor Kennedy We've got a poor Kennedy here. Once this is all sorted out, you might find that some of the people that you've loved in the past might start coming back out into the open, if it's going to be safe for them to do so. So there have been rumours that Diana is still alive, Lady Diana.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And there's rumours that people like Michael Jackson, and there's a guy called Cappy who sort of started this Hollywood thing off a few years ago, started saying what was going on in Hollywood with these children, and he suddenly then threw himself off a bridge, but he didn't actually throw himself off a bridge. We think that that was a way of getting him into hiding, so he might come back. So there might be a lot of people suddenly, you might suddenly find out that they're actually been alive all this time.
I tell you, well, this has been incredible. Peace and love to all. A poor Kennedy. Oh yeah, lovely. There was just something there. Does Michelle know about the film that Jim Casavats has made?
Oh yes, Caviezel. So, yeah, that's Jim Caviezel.
Oh right.
And he was in a film called The Passion of the Christ, where I think he played Jesus, because I haven't actually seen it. But now, what's the name of the guy that's been doing? There's an operation called Operation Underground, which a guy has been working on for lots of years, where they go in and get these children out, and he's had his life in danger the whole time. There's a team of them. They go in. Tom Ballard, that's it. Tom Ballard runs Operation Underground, and they go in and they rescue children, putting their own lives in danger. Because it's a bit like this drug running, you know, when you go in and try and dismantle drug cartels, it's a very dangerous job. So if you think of children have been used like in the same way. So this Operation Underground has been turned into a film, and it's called The Sound of Freedom. And a couple of weeks ago, it premiered in Las Vegas, and all the main truthers like Charlie Ward, David Nino Rodriguez, Juan Savin, Gene Decode, Mel K, all the ones that you might know about that do what I do. They were all invited to Las Vegas to see the premiere, and they've all been given the original copy of it, and at a certain date, which they haven't been told what date yet, they're going to release it out to everybody at the same time around the world. It's going to go live at the same time, and it's basically the whole story of this trafficking been made into a fantastic film, so that people can see the real depth of the problem. You know, like the girl I was telling you about with all the pregnancies and and how big it is. People don't understand how big this problem is, or has been.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, it's being dismantled now.
Oh, Michelle, you have, wow, just thank you. I mean, I hope everyone's all right with what's been shared tonight. I honestly believe if you're here, you've been drawn to it. You knew, you know, this is, I think it's been marvellous. I'm so grateful, Michelle. I did wonder how the evening would go, really. Yeah, because I'd said about this time thing, but I knew you knew so much.
I mean, the other good things to look forward to are that President Trump, Assange, Elon Musk, and is it Edward Snowden? I always forget his first name. They're all working on a new media platform. So that'll be TV, radio, social networks. They're all working on that. Julian Assange is not in London in a prison cell. He was released some time ago. He's been looked after by Trump the whole time.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm goosed at that. Thank you.
You don't have to worry about. They're all working on this high-tech quantum media system. So when, you know, because Trump's favorite thing is fake news, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, he's been putting together a new platform for that. So we're going to start seeing Trump TV.
Brilliant.
I don't know if it'll be called Trump TV, but it just so he's working. So we're in the future, we're going to be richer. We're going to be able to travel freely. There's all these dark plans that we've been having to live through recently. It's all been for the bigger, greater good. and it's not going to be much longer now. The reason it's just been getting held up is because we cannot go live with all these things till we're absolutely sure that we've got that dark network out, because we don't want anything messing it up this time. You know, we want them gone for good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So grateful. Thank you so much. There is a John Kennedy. Thank you.
There is a John
Oh,
Kennedy.
yeah. Yeah. I think that's right. Thank you very much. This has been amazing. Oh, bless you. Thank you. I just hope everyone's all right with this, but I'm sure, you know, you wouldn't still be here if you weren't. So.
Well, we've covered a little bit of everything today, so we haven't gone into anything in a lot of great detail, but hopefully you've got like a little bit of a sprinkling of everything there. But
Absolutely.
All of these topics are quite big, so, you know, maybe you might want to go and look at some other truther channels and see some more details around it.
Absolutely.
And get more information.
Will you come back with us again, Michelle?
I would love to. Well, that's if everybody wants me to come back, if I'm this
Yes.
voice of doom.
Oh, yes, please. Rowena, such a mixture. Thank you. Rowena's even said that. Yeah, and Rowena, she knows a lot.
Oh,
Mo knows a lot. Joe,
Brilliant.
well, there's loads here that know a lot. Lindsay, Renee, Maggie. Yeah.
Well,
So
I think
that's
it's nice to hear other people, you know, even if you know lots of information, it's also nice to have it confirmed, isn't it, by, you know, by others that
Absolutely.
this is going on, because you can feel sometimes like you're going a bit mad because the mainstream media aren't putting this stuff out. You can actually feel sometimes like it's just you know, and we can all feel a bit alone sometimes because we're still the minority in a lot of respects. So we need to all like stick together,
yeah,
and support one another, because a lot of our families and friends, they don't understand all of this yet. They don't understand that we're looking out for them.
exactly.
You know,
I mean, honestly, my husband, you know, God love him, but he doesn't believe any of it.
well, my daughter hasn't spoken to me. She's 22 and she hasn't spoken to me since last summer. She said to me, "Mum, you need to come off of that YouTube. You sound crazy."
Well, of course, they're embarrassed because people see us. And they're embarrassed for us.
He said, honestly, if the doctor sees that, you know.
So Dennis has put light workers, there's going to be a time soon when people on this earth are going to need you. No, we know now.
Yeah.
No, we know now. Now we know why, I think that means to say.
Yeah. So, you know, we've all had this sort of big awakening to all these shocks about the fact that everything we thought was good is actually been bad. And people that we didn't think were very good, we're now realizing are actually the good people.
Yeah.
Everything has literally been turned on its head. And, you know, when we've had time to sort of come to terms with it, and because of our spirituality, we, like that other lady was saying, Renee, I think that was her name, or
Yeah,
Renee. You know, even if you're hearing something for the first time, when you've got that spiritual compass, you can feel that it's right. It resonates. But for some people, they don't have that GPS. So when they hear it, it's going to absolutely blow their lives apart. So we're all going to be needed, aren't we, Jackie? We're all going
without a doubt. Without a doubt. And we all know that. Yeah, and it's what we're here for. It's the time we were born for.
Yeah. I'm so glad I've met this group because you're all such lovely people.
They are.
I'm just going to put them back into gallery view so I can see you all again.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had you all in speaker.
Where can we go?
I don't know how to do it now. Where's the...
I've done at the top. It says either speaker view or gallery view.
I can see you all now because I just had it in speaker view.
And I'll just say, Rowena's saying parents are meant to be embarrassing. They help their children to grow.
Well, honestly, my daughter didn't come for Christmas. She didn't speak to me. She didn't speak to me on my birthday, which is January, and she didn't speak to me on my Mother's Day. It's just been a wall of silence.
Oh.
And I haven't been upset by it because I know what this is all, you know, this big plan is for me very exciting. So, you know, I just know that once we get the other side of it all would have been worth it.
Absolutely.
Because it's going to create a better world for everybody. So, you know, we just have to bear with our husbands and our daughters for a little bit longer.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much, Misha. I absolutely loved it. Bless you. Thank you.
What a lovely bunch of people.
Aren't they? Oh my God, I'm so blessed. Thank you. Bye.
Bye then. Bye.